Bonjour. So here's the reality. I'm too disabled to work. I have this repeated experience with well-meaning friends, especially new friends. They see how my being too disabled to work leaves me in a traumatizing and helpless and unlivable situation. And they see me struggling with it, they hear me talking about it, and they focus on either giving me the problematic band-aid of temporary charity, which I can't count on and is rife with its own emotional baggage and potential for ruining the friendship for me, or on suggesting career options for me. And I don't think they necessarily put a whole lot of thought into what it is they're doing before they do it. It's just this, well, there's a problem. My friend Cassie is hurting, let's fix it. And from their point of view, if they are in a situation where they can't afford things, then they address that problem with employment. But this especially comes up anytime people see me succeeding at something, anything. It turns into, how can we monetize this and make it so that you have to do this relentlessly to survive? And this rubs my nose in the fact that this well-meaning friend, who really does mean well, has the privilege of being able to hold a job and the privilege to not understand just how much effort it takes to do that. Because one of the key factors of privilege is privilege makes it so you don't know you have privilege, so you don't know that you don't know. And the only way to combat that is like questioning yourself and your environment and what it is that you have, how you're able to have that. But a lot of times you're not even necessarily aware of what you do have until you're talking to someone who does not have that. This attitude also of giving me career advice or seeing me succeed at something and saying, you could do that for a living, why don't you just do that more? It reinforces that other disabled people who can work are seen as successful. They're more culturally accepted, especially if they're visibly disabled. These are the people that we call on to give talks about disability, are the people who have successfully overcome their own identity as disabled people. It sets the expectations for all disabled people at like this really high level that I feel all the time pressured to live to. Because since those are the most popular stories of disability, the ones about overcoming and doing things in spite of, that's what abled people feel comfortable with. And that's what they want for us, is for us to not be disabled. But that doesn't make us not disabled. Putting pressure on us to be inspirations for abled people, like, if I can overcome this, you can overcome anything. There are a lot of things that have been written about how that objectifies people with disabilities, turning us into basically props for your life, reducing us to what it is that we do for you. We're really tired and worn out anyway. We don't need to be taking care of you and making you feel better. And this also, this prioritizing of the voices and popularizing of the stories of disabled people who have succeeded at overcoming their disability, which for us takes a lot more effort and time and work than someone who doesn't have these challenges. By focusing on them and trying to hold all disabled people to those standards, those pull yourself up by your own bootstrap standards, it tends to absolve everybody of responsibility for making accommodations or advocating for a betterment of our lives and treatment. The problem in this situation, in my situation, is a society, a culture, and government systems larger than me that threaten my survival, which often subtly or overtly tell me that I'm either lying or I don't actually deserve to live, that my only worth and value is measured in what I do for other people that they value enough to pay for. Essentially, that my value must be externally bestowed upon me and continuously earned over and over again, or else my worth drains away, and I no longer even deserve food, shelter, safety, respect, caring, and love. A lot of times the stigma about people who are homeless or jobless or poor or disabled is that they're lazy. And I think this is damaging not just for disabled people, but also for abled people. If we're equating someone's worth and worthiness of all of these things directly with their paycheck, then people out there with low-paying jobs, are they less worthy? Are they less of a person? So it's just this underpinning of classism in everything that affects everyone. So this point of view is toxic for everyone. But the thing is, we've been taking this in our whole lives through media and things like that demonize people who don't have jobs and have equated that with laziness, with being a mooch, with being laughably undesirable as a romantic partner, as a friend, as a human being, and basically invisibilizing them and blaming them for everything that happens to them. Career advice implies that I'm not doing everything I can, or that I'm just ignorant of something that I could do enough to earn a living wage. It trivializes the amount of effort and spoons it takes to sustain gainful employment. In other words, it's easy for you to say, oh, can't you just do this and make a living? It's like, you have no idea. That's just, it blows my mind how when people give advice, they'll advise something that may be so enormously costly and long-term, just blithely, as if they're recommending that you try this bran muffin. Like, just telling me what to do with the bulk of my life is just... Why isn't there not even a part of a human being that pauses before doing this compulsive advice giving? And that's what I think it is that advice giving is also so indoctrinated into us that people do it compulsively. It's a compulsive behavior, and it's a bad one. Unsolicited advice is criticism. Giving me career advice is advising me to do things that are harmful, damaging, and extremely dangerous for me. The times that I've been closest to death and psychotic breakdowns have been the times that I've been working, when life becomes so relentlessly painful it becomes unlivable. So when you're giving me career advice and you're thinking from your perspective of, yeah, it sucks to hold a job, but I do it anyway because you have to, not understanding that for me to go to work, I may as well drive drunk. I may as well jump off a bridge and hope that I don't break every bone in my body and die when I hit the water. I mean, we're not talking about the same experience. Your experiencing of work as sometimes being really hard is not the experience that I have, which is that work endangers my very life. And that's just part-time work. I'm not even talking about full-time work. I also can't make money in the arts. Much as I love being creative, I'm passionate about them, I'm passionate about the things that I make, that doesn't equate a career. This is something that even abled people usually aren't able to do to support themselves as an artist. It's a fiendishly complicated, exhausting, and unreliable occupation that people who haven't ever attempted don't understand. Some people make it work as artists with day jobs, some make it work as starving artists, and I am not either of those. Often people will see something I was able to successfully create or do with enormous effort. On a rare day, I have energy to both take care of myself and make something. And then people sometimes presume that I could sustain this effort, especially if they're only seeing me on my good days. This displays a lot of ignorance about the creation of works of art, be they books or visual art pieces or performance pieces or any other marketable creative product. 99% of making art is process, not product. Trying, failing, learning, experimenting, gathering materials and resources, research, and more and more and more and more. In addition to making the art, The bulk of the effort of someone who makes a living at their art is the marketing and business end, because most artists don't make enough money to pay someone else to do it. This part of the job as an artist is so enormously triggering and problematic as to be downright traumatic for me. Making a living as an artist is something that is even beyond the capability of most abled people. Now, I don't show people my bad days and my most symptomatic times. These are the times when I'm most vulnerable to getting hurt by other people, and I don't like having people around me during those times, because those have been the times when I have also had my worst experiences of being preyed on by other people. And I don't feel like I should have to prove I'm disabled with a pound of flesh, or showing or telling anyone about those nightmarish and hellish times for me that I still experience on a regular basis as someone who's living with disability. I also don't feel that I should have to explicitly explain why I can't do something, giving the other person the opportunity to argue with my painful reality and try to fix it. Because too often, if I provide a reason for why, they will try to make that reason not be there. This is why it's really hard for me sometimes having conversations with people, because they're treating everything that they are not comfortable with about my reality as a challenge for a debate. That if they can just prove to me through their logic and their knowings and their learnings that what I'm telling them isn't true, then it's not true. Reality doesn't work like that. Allowing people access to my pain and my most symptomatic and difficult times endangers me and is the opposite of taking care of me. Disabled people are a lot more likely to be abused in all kinds of ways, and in my personal experience, when I'm at my worst, are the times when I get abused and assaulted and taken advantage of the most. I don't go into detail about how my specific disabilities prevent me from working. I don't think that's anyone's business other than my doctor's and Social Security disability. Because I've become more symptomatic and disabled over time, my worst times are more frequent, and that means I'm less and less able to spend time around other people. In addition to my living situation and financial situation are getting worse, which also make my conditions worse. It's become even more unpredictable when my disabilities will strike and disable me from being able to do something, anything, and how long those periods will be. This means often I can't even make social commitments reliably. Never mind that most social commitments also involve money for gas, for food, for events that I don't have to spare. I do have some ideas for how you can better support me as an ally, and one thing you can do is educate other people about invisible illnesses and read up on ableism and classism and how they show up every day in ways you might not be aware. I'll provide some links in the description box to help you out. You can also help me raise awareness of how broken these systems are, that I'm talking about in these reality checks, the things that I have to grapple with in order to survive, and how they're not working, not doing what they're supposed to be. Challenge the social stigmas and misconceptions about disability, poverty, and homelessness, especially when these things come up in conversations with others if you can. At the very least, don't laugh at jokes that target people who don't have jobs, people who are disabled, people who are homeless, people who are poor. What I want, what I've always wanted from an ally, was someone to stand up to a person or a system more powerful than me who is hurting me, especially if I'm not there. I know it can be scary and risky to use your privilege to challenge systems and other privileged people. I'm not asking anyone to put themselves in harm's way for me, but I can't fight this fight alone. I read that ally is a verb, so verb that allyship. If you want my situation to change for the better, if you have a strong desire to say something, focus your words not on changing me and my choices, but on challenging the systems and stigmas that make my life precarious and unsustainable and sometimes even dangerous for me right now. Another thing you can do is believe me when I tell you I'm too disabled to work. That includes anything and everything you can think of. It isn't that I haven't tried everything or that there's an option out there for me. It's that I am too disabled to work, and I need disability income in order to survive. It's my only option or hope for survival. I'm doing everything I can just to take care of myself. It's not like I have this whole enormous store of energy. Hold down a job on top of that. Just think about how much energy your job takes from you. And if I'm struggling just to survive, and sometimes I don't have enough energy during the day to take care of myself, it's ludicrous to think that I could also do a job. But believe me, if there was any other way, I would have found it by now. Because I'm smart, resourceful, stubborn, and proactive. Because this is no way to live. How difficult it is to apply for and get disability in this country, and how costly it is psychologically, financially, and physically to go through this process. And in the end, usually the benefits are not all that great from it. It's not like this is going to make me rich. All I'm trying to do here is survive. The therapists and social workers that I've worked with have had high praise for me and even astonishment for the efforts I make to take care of myself and improve my situation. I'm not lazy, I'm not stupid, and I'm not ignorant. I'm disabled. I'm too disabled to work. It has taken me a long, heartbreaking time to come to grips with this. I was ashamed for years to define my situation. Disclosing my daily harrowing experiences with my worsening disabilities and unemployment and worsening financial situation would have made it too real for me, and revealed vulnerabilities that I knew all too well made me a target for pity, abuse, and judgment. I was kept busy just surviving, with no strength or spoons to define it. And now I'm trying to get respect for that identity. There's no cure, only treatments to alleviate my suffering and help me take care of myself. And there's no job I can do. It sets me back and hurts me when well-meaning people try to push those things on me to effectively try to make me not disabled anymore. I need acceptance of my reality, of my identity as a disabled person. I need it to not be merely tolerated or seen as a challenge to be overcome by me changing. I need it to be part of who I am in your mind and heart, a part just as welcome as my good days and my triumphs. I need to be able to create art and share those successes and triumphs with my friends without fear of anyone seeing those things as proof that I'm not disabled, or have to fight off pressure to repeat my triumphs at an overwhelming, constant, consistent pace that would be necessary for me to make a career of it. I shouldn't have to just never do anything, to be like confined to my house and my bed permanently in order to prove to anyone that I'm too disabled to hold a job. I've had to learn over and over, sometimes on a daily basis, to value myself, in spite of the reality that's working against me, that I'm confronted with over and over again in my interactions with others, in what I read and hear and watch, in this whole culture that says that I will never be valued by the majority of people, by culture, by society, directly equates how much money one can make to one's value and worth as a human being, and eligibility for survival and membership to society at all. That if I'm not a contributing member of society, and that contribution to society is something that makes money, then I don't deserve to be a part of that society. And we have a very narrow view of what that contribution can look like. And we have set the bar very, very high for what you have to contribute to be considered a contributing member of society and how you can do it. There's also a lot of snobbery and shaming around certain types of occupations and like how much you get paid. Your employment and your financial situation and your living situation also tend to determine whether or not someone deserves respect, friendship, companionship, and love in and of themselves. And this is all just unconscious bias that we've absorbed. Think of all the times that you've seen a movie or you've seen someone who's jobless or homeless or poor depicted in advice columns in popular culture as either the butt of the joke or someone that you just really don't want to date, and how much of a deal breaker it is for so many people. This world demonizes the jobless, the disabled, and the homeless, and blames us for our predicaments. The prevailing narrative is that it's okay to deride us, to mock us, to deprive us of what we need to survive, and often assault us because we can't fight back, that it's fine to kick us when we're down. And for many people, the solution to all of this seems too obvious to them. Get a job, any job. Kill yourself to survive if your life is what employment takes from you. Don't be as disabled as you are. Don't, in effect, be who you are, because who you are isn't worth anything. Who you are doesn't deserve survival. Who you are doesn't deserve a home, safety, place in this world. Your worth, your value, your worthiness of survival and care and love is exactly how much someone will pay for you, and must be constantly earned without end, no matter the cost or suffering to you. And I think we swallow this narrative all of the time. We swallow it when we read advice columns about someone who's lonely, but they live with their parents, and they struggle every day, and the knee-jerk default response is get a job. That kind of like when overweight people go to the doctor, they can't get respect and treatment for their symptoms because the doctor zeroes in on their weight, and all of their advice starts with that. Well, if you just lose weight, then you wouldn't have this problem. It makes an easy scapegoat for everything. And the weight may, in fact, be a symptom, not a cause. I mean, getting a job will not save my life. Getting a job would end my life. As it is, it's really hard to struggle anyway. Thank you for watching.